Welcome everyone, I'm Big King Taurus and this is a review of Masterverse Wave 1 Skeletor from the Netflix original series Masters of the Universe Revelations. For those who aren't familiar, Skeletor is the main villain of the Masters of the Universe franchise and archenemy of He-Man. While Skeletor has gone through many iterations over the years, typically they all follow the aesthetic of a hooded, skull-faced sorcerer with a muscular blue body and purple armor, sometimes wearing a cape. This figure is based on his appearance in Revelations and is one of the latest incarnations of Eternia's evil Lord of Destruction. Skeletor comes packed in the standard Masterverse blue detailed window box with the figure and all of his accessories visible. Masters of the Universe Revelation logo is prominent on the front of the package with a box in the top right corner letting you know that it's a Netflix original series. The Masterverse title, Skeletor's name, Mattel logo, age recommendation, and the number of points of articulation finish up all the verbiage on the front. The back of the box showcases artwork that prominently features Skeletor in front of Snake Mountain, as well as his character bio and a cross-sell for all the figures in Wave 1. I really like the artwork we're getting as it harkens back to the original vintage line and brings more life to the character and the packaging than just stock photos of the product inside. Artwork continues on the left side of the box with a different portrait of Skeletor. Here, he's reaching out as if to cast a deadly spell on those who dare face him. The right side of the box tells us that this is Skeletor and he is the evil Lord of Destruction. The black and blue design from the front of the box carries over to this side panel. If you're a mint and sealed box collector and are looking to display him and his fellow wavemates together on a bookshelf, here's how they all look side by side with their names facing out. This is a pretty cohesive look, like multiple volumes of the same text. You can also display them together, side by side with the artwork facing you. While the artwork isn't interconnected and doesn't form a larger art piece, I do think it looks good like this. While the packaging looks great, this figure, much like Skeletor himself, cannot be contained. Let's take him out for a closer look. Skeletor's accessories include his traditional Havoc staff, the Shaping Staff, a semi-gripping right hand with a curved pointer finger, and an open left hand. Let's take a close-up look at the Havoc staff. This Havoc staff takes its design cues from previous versions as it features a ram's skull on a long staff. The skull is mostly gray with a black wash, horns are a dark purple, and the staff is a lighter shade of purple, almost lavender. The skull and horns are very nicely sculpted, and the black wash helps bring out the details on the skull. And here's a quick side-by-side comparison of the Masterverse Havoc staff alongside the Classics Havoc staff to the right and the Origins Havoc staff to the left. Skeletor also comes with the Shaping Staff, an artifact originally introduced in an episode of the original Filmation cartoon titled with the same name. The Shaping Staff also makes an appearance in the first episode of Revelation. The staff included, however, is colored yellow like in the Filmation cartoon and not silver like in Revelation. And here is Skeletor himself. Taking most of his design cues from his vintage figure and vintage cardback look, Skeletor's body is blue and muscular. His forearms have a ridged, thin look, and his hands have sharp nails that are painted a dark blue, almost black color. Skeletor's head is a hooded skull and has a greenish-yellow color for the face, black eyes, and purple for the hood. The same purple continued on the armor that has the traditional crossbones and jewel in the front, the flares on the shoulders, and the straps that hold it in place on his torso. He sports a belt and a cingulum on his lower body, has shin guards that go around his lower legs, and has three-toed demon feet with claws painted the same dark blue as the nails on his hands. Skeletor's armor is made up of two pieces that hold his cape in place, a cape that is inspired by his appearance in the 2002 reboot cartoon and is also worn in the Revelation series. The cape is made of a fabric, but does not have a lot of weight and therefore doesn't drape over the figure as much as it just kind of hangs over it. Because the cape is removable, you can display Skeletor without it. This makes for a more traditional looking Skeletor if that is a look you prefer more. I want to take a moment to address a couple of issues I have with the figure. First off, the face. Due to the plastic the face is cast in, it's very difficult to see some of the molded details. Had the face received a similar wash to that of the Havoc Staff's head, I feel it would improve the overall look, giving it more depth and not simply looking like a piece of plastic. My other issue is his armor. Due to it being two pieces instead of one, I find myself constantly adjusting the top part due to it moving out of place every time I move the figure around. I understand why it was tooled as two separate pieces to accommodate the cape, but I can't help but believe that there had to be a better way to implement the cape without having the armor split the way it does, breaking up the sculpt of the crossbones in the front and constantly moving out of place. Some molded pegs or clips would have alleviated this issue. Skeletor stands at just under 7 inches and is noticeably shorter than He-Man when placed next to him. Much like He-Man and his other wave mates, Skeletor features swappable hands. Continuing the tradition that began in the Vintage line and continued in the Classics and Origins lines, Masterverse has Skeletor reusing many of the same parts as He-Man. The two share torsos, shoulders, upper arms, elbows, hips, thighs, upper legs, knees, and the upper half of the lower legs. Because there are so many shared parts with He-Man, articulation is pretty much the same with Skeletor. Head is on a ball peg and can rotate 360 degrees and can look down and up. Shoulders rotate 360 degrees and swivel up and down. Arms rotate 360 degrees on a bicep swivel. Elbows are double jointed with no exposed pin but never fully extend straight. Hands rotate 360 degrees at the wrist and swivel on a hinge. The upper torso moves on a rocker joint and moves more slowly than the He-Man I reviewed. Waist rotates 360 degrees and does so with less resistance than the He-Man I reviewed as well. Legs split outwards and don't feel as awkward as He-Man's when trying to get them back in place. Upper legs rotate 360 degrees on a thigh cut joint. Legs can kick forward and the cingulum is not as intrusive as He-Man's loincloth. Knees are double jointed with no exposed pins. Lower legs can rotate on a cut joint midway up the calf, and feet pivot up and down and can rock side to side. Here's Masterverse Skeletor alongside Classic Skeletor to the right and Origin Skeletor to the left to show you how he scales with these figures from other lines should you choose to display him with not just other Masterverse figures. And here he is with various other 6 and 7 inch scale figures if you're into displaying a mix of figures from different lines on your shelf. If you have any Masters of the Universe Origins figures, you can do a little mixing and matching for fun. Here we have the Wave 1 Origins Skeletor head, armor, and Havoc staff. Keep in mind, the Havoc staff is very loose in his hands and the armor does not close in the back. Here he is with Skeletor's head, armor, cape, and power sword from the Origins of Evil 2-pack. Like the Origins Havoc staff, the power sword does not fit in the hands very well and is very loose. And here he is with the alternate Alcala-inspired Skeletor head from the same 2-pack. I must admit, this head probably works the best with the Masterverse figure as he looks like he's ready. My final thoughts. Masterverse Skeletor is a flawed yet fun figure. Similar to what I said in my He-Man review, if you have amassed a substantial classics collection, this figure is not going to overshadow any Skeletor from that line and is not a must-get. Even as a representation of the Revelation character, it still lacks in details. A paint wash on the face would make a world of difference. The armor is also problematic as it's two separate pieces that don't hold well together and doesn't look good as a result. Conversely, if you have not been collecting classics or Origin, he's not a bad figure to start with. The interchangeable hands are done well. The cape, while not the best execution of a soft goods accessory, still adds to the figure and doesn't hinder it in any way. The shaping staff not matching the color in Revelation, while noticeable, isn't a deal breaker. While I wish the arms could extend straight out, you can still get him in some very good poses. And since he retails for an MSRP of $19.99 and should be currently out in stores as of this video's release, he shouldn't be too difficult to obtain. While I wouldn't label him a must-buy, I do recommend him. That's it for this video. If you haven't already, please subscribe and leave a like on this video. Click the bell for notifications. I'm Big King Taurus, and I will see you next time.